News Talk Cleveland, WERE, Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland. And streaming live at blackplanetradio.com. This is a paid program brought to you by Starfish Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.
Here we go again. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Starfish Speaks right here on News Talk 1490 WERE. I am your host once again, Mr. Greg Stuart, alongside my co-host, Mr. Willem Ekels. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Ready to get this show on the road. We got a very exciting show today, and we have a very special guest back with us once again. You heard him last time, and he was such a big hit. He decided to come back and do it again. Mr. Calvin Turner, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Thank you for having me back. I do appreciate and enjoy what Starfish is doing. This platform is getting the word out there.
Oh yeah, man, most definitely. You was a big hit last time. People kept asking me, "Are you coming back? Are you coming back?" So I was like, you know what? Let's just get him. He ain't doing that no way.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm not doing anything else, but I do appreciate the fact that you would have me back.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Of course, we'd have you back. You had a good additional dynamic, but
right,
we couldn't have done it without you.
We have a very interesting and exciting show today. We're going to talk about the importance of independence and public transportation amongst people with disabilities. To me, I think that's a very important subject and topic, and I know my guest and my co-host feel the same way.
Yes, actually do. Public transportation is a way of the world, and just seeing how most of us get around, not just the disabled community, but a lot of America gets around with public transportation, and it's very important aspect of our lives. It's not just something that it's there for us, but no, we actually utilize and rely on this.
Absolutely. So I guess my first question is, and Calvin, I'll start with you, and then Willem, you can answer. How important is transportation for people with disabilities?
That's a great question. It's actually very important due to the fact of for the disabled who do not drive or do not have the ability to have the adaptive equipment for driving, it's their means of transportation. Like I know myself, it's my means of transportation. When I can't get in the car with someone or don't have that time to wait for someone, public transportation is the go-to. So it's very important.
Absolutely. Willem, how about you?
Well, I'll say that public transportation was something that was very important for me at one point. I know it's very important for a lot of people. Honestly, I will say, though, in truth, I'm not a big fan of public transportation. It's something I would prefer to take.
Go ahead.
Okay, if it weren't for the need that has happened at times,
mm-hmm.
I would personally choose not to take it simply because of some of the inconvenience of it, some of the way that some of the buses are, some of the experience of it. Also, it's a little overwhelming, but personal opinions there. I know there are a lot of people who really becomes their primary thing. I will say it's very convenient, though, when it comes to going downtown for sporting events.
Most definitely.
It's like anything else. It has its pros and cons. And as you said right there, Willem, I agree with you because there are some people who have to take that and rely on that, but then there's an overwhelming feeling when you get there. Like I know personally, getting on some of them, it's like my lift doesn't work. It's overcrowded. It's just natural things that just like after a long day of work or being out, who wants to deal with the riffraff
Exactly.
of some of
Exactly.
the things that public transportation brings along?
Exactly. And I was actually looking over some stuff, and there are certain places in Ohio that don't even have public transportation, but have people with, disabilities that live in those areas. Like, for instance, Lorraine. I have a friend who lives in Lorraine, and he was telling me that there is no public transportation out there.
That's just like I know people who live in Geauga County, and out there, it's only the circulator, and you have to call in advance, up to a week in advance, to
Right.
schedule this, and the rate is the fare isn't affordable. So we're
Right.
going to go back to not just being transportation, but affordable transportation also.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Now, playing devil's advocate here, just because I have a close personal friend whose father works for RTA, and public transportation is kind of a thing that's near and dear to their heart and that kind of thing. So I'll bring up this question: is there possibly any, say, hindrances or say logistical things that come into play that come with balancing those out? Because in certain areas, I mean, is there enough of a user base? Is there enough, say, funding or other things in those places? Or, I mean, is there enough of actually a desire for public transportation otherwise?
And I'll say that's a great question, because it just may not be. That may be why they do not have it, but it's the thing where we don't like our options being taken away. So again, it gives us the option and the opportunity to use it. Now, I do understand we're not going to go and waste funds if there's not a desired need for it. But again, that option to have it is what we all should have.
Absolutely. All right. Please feel free to join in the conversation. Give us a call, 216-578-1490. Once again, that's 216-578-1490. And I just thought about this. Columbus, their public transportation system is pretty much identical to ours as far as with the paratransit and the RTA, and theirs is a little cheaper than ours. Not much, but slightly. Yeah, I had a chance to go down to Columbus a few times, and it was a pretty interesting experience for me. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting when I checked that out. Like, for instance, our all-day passes are what, $7.50?
For paratransit.
Yeah, for paratransit is $7.50, and for them it's like, I think, $4 and something. Like,
Now that is significantly a difference right there. That
right,
is a nice
right,
difference.
and I'm like, wow. And like when you get on the buses out here, you got to show your ADA card and still pay the fare. Versus out there, all you got to do is show them your ADA card, and you ride the bus for free.
Well, again, that's something where we did have at one point.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, we had that at one point, so I'm not going to take that away. It's just another hurdle and another loop that has buckled down for us, because I guess they were having issues with that. So it's one thing where it's still in their place, and then where they took it out and said, look, everyone has to do this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Willem, you want to share something?
Well, speaking about the differences in the costs, I was thinking more from the standpoint of, I feel like there'd be a difference in, say, population demographics and that in the area of, say, Columbus versus in Cleveland. I mean, how large of an area, first off, does their transit actually cover? And how many, say, people on a daily basis actually utilizing it, going from here to there? And potentially also, how much money does it actually get otherwise, beyond just actually it gets from, say, fares? I feel like there probably is maybe a little more to that one as to why it's a little cheaper in some ways than others.
Right.
And I not to say that you say the affordability thing is kind of isn't a big focus. It is something that should be paid attention to. It's just there's a degree to which I think that maybe part of that affordability is that we're pushing the brunt of the responsibility for it in the wrong place. So we're making those who are utilizing it, who really don't necessarily have as many of their options, having to bear the brunt of that versus actually, say, those, being that expense or cost being able to be handled elsewhere.
Okay, so that pretty much goes into my next question. Does everyone really have access to public transportation?
Access to public transportation, I'm not going to say everyone has it, because then you're looking at now the elderly, where again, the way the world is coming upon us being technology savvy, where we have to go online, we have to do things, email, and I'll tell you right now, I know some older people who I can't get with this. I can't text. I can't.
Yeah.
What is an email? What is this? So they do not know that. So it's going back to where, yes, adaptation and the world is moving, but don't take it away from our older generation who still likes that.
They like it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah,
you're talking about the basically the fact that it used to be that all the bus stops and all the RTA stops used to have a little holder that would have like a copy of the schedule and that kind of thing there, and you could easily get the paper schedules pretty much anywhere. Where nowadays on most of the stops they'll have a QR code or whatever on the advertisement of the spot, and says. It says scan here for the schedule, or go to riderta.com to get the schedule, that kind of thing. Is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that is one of the things I'm talking about. But also not just with that, but with the application fees, where for some who naturally like to go out and put their hands on things, a lot of places are saying go online to print it out, go online to view our application process. And these are things where
for the application for the senior disabled cards and all that.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. That.
I remember when I had to go and actually get my card once. Last time, it was very time consuming just because of the wait. And it wasn't like there were that many people there, and it wasn't like a long line. It just really took a long time, and
that takes up a lot of time.
And I wasn't, you're not allowed to fill out the form while you're there. You got allowed. I mean, it was pretty interesting sort of thing. You had to have the form done first, had to have the money with you, had to go and do, and so I can understand where that might actually be a bit of a learning curve, or at least a bit of a difficulty there, especially for those who say had to take public transportation to get there first.
Exactly, and then not only that, where we're talking about going back into the fairs, where they may only had X amount of dollars to get there, taking that, and now you have to spend that going back not within the time frame that you expected, because again, you wasn't expecting to have to wait
and actually time out from that normal, sort of give me time between paying and okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's accessible, but it can be a headache of a hindrance.
Right.
So we can say that basically that everybody does say have the opportunity for access, but not necessarily the ability to access.
That's a unique way. Yeah.
I like the way you put that, and again, that goes back to our first show, along with this one tying in. It's just the adaptation. The adaptation where we all need that. We need to be able to adapt.
Absolutely. It's neither you adapt or you'll perish, one way or the other.
I don't know that we really want to get too far into evolutionary theory here, though. But hey, now another thing, though, a question we have though is does transportation make a difference? Does having transportation make a difference? You know what? that question is kind of an interesting one. I'll say that one of the big things when going through work adjustment programs, that kind of thing, one of the big things that is made really what really is a big thing that's pointed out is the tie between actually transportation, reliable transportation, timely transportation, and ability to maintain employment.
Okay, we have
got
a caller.
call.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Starfish Speaks.
Hey guys, it's Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Hey, and Willem just hit on what I wanted to talk about.
Sorry to steal your thunder.
You still there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, but Willem started talking about it with the employment piece. The transportation and reliable transportation, and whether it's through public transportation and having it affordable for employment, or whether it's through, transportation services that you can access through people's waivers and whatever, having reliable transportation is one of the key pieces to persons with disabilities maintaining employment. And I think that's a piece that we need to talk about, because there are so many transportation companies out there beyond public transportation that offer transportation to persons with disabilities, but the reliability, the consistency, the training
quality
of the drivers, all of this stuff in Ohio isn't being monitored. And so sometimes our individuals with disabilities are being put into vans that haven't been serviced properly, or more importantly, where the driver doesn't really have a safe driving record. And so parents are putting their kids on these forms of transportation, and their young adults on forms of transportation, hoping they're going to get to and from work or school, and it's not always consistent nor safe. So I do think there needs to be a safety issue that we talk about as you pull into the conversation. So I just wanted to throw that piece out. And Calvin, I would love to know your take on what parents could do and can do if their young adults are coming home and saying, hey, this happened on the van today, or this happened, on the paratransport, or any of those things, if there's some sort of outlet for parents.
Well, again, I would say thank you, and great having you call in. But for that matter right there, it's all about taking a stand and understanding your own safety, as you said. That's something that a lot of drivers, the background, the extensive training that they should go through, and not just speaking on a paratransit level or provider ride. We're talking about just even with the little companies, as you just said, servicing those vans. And the outlet should be where more parents should be more involved. More parents should be more involved. And it's not to say that there's nobody out there involved, but just gathering a coalition for that is one thing I think that should be spoken upon and brought upon for us. Because, again, we can do more.
I agree.
So
I agree with you.
I agree.
You guys are doing great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. And thank you for calling.
Okay. So, again, yes, going back to that thing about employment and all of that, and the reliability and all of those things of transportation. From my personal experience, public transit is time-consuming, very time-consuming. Depending on where you're trying to go, to where coming from, it can be extremely time-consuming.
Absolutely.
For some individuals, it can even mean an hour and a half, 2 hours, just one way, depending. Right. But from my personal experience with it, I as I said, I really dislike public transportation quite a bit. With it, it's very very time consuming, laborious, and also tiring in a lot of ways. If I hadn't actually been able to get my driver's license and be in charge of control of my own transportation, I would not necessarily have been able to gain the success that I've been able to gain at all, since it is one of those things that you can't really wait on public transportation. There's a delay in this, delay in that. It can be very, very problematic.
So you feel within getting your driver's license actually gave you a more gainable experience and responsibility of freedom to go out and do more within yourself, because like I say again, where it goes hand in hand. Again, I'm not ruling out public transportation because it's the way of the world.
It's the way of the world, exactly.
It's the way,
especially for dense urban environments, though, where there's really, I mean, having a car kind of becomes less
Right.
Logical, less of actually a feasible opportunity or option. I mean, especially public transportation is really very useful there. However, in places where, you've got larger distances from point A to point B, it's not necessarily that kind of thing. I mean, there's a difference there.
Right.
But
and I'm going to go back and pinpoint on where certain employment places, certain jobs charge for you driving to park, where a lot of people actually say, I'd rather take the bus and save my $12, save my $10,
exactly.
for the fact of riding the bus in opposed to driving. Because again, it goes back and forth. Yes, you're going to spend that in gas, or you're going to spend that in the parking, or you're going to spend it on the bus fare. It's all about, yes, I know there's fees and everything, but it's about making it affordable for everyone.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to where we're talking about the gas.
right.
We're talking about parking. We're talking about just everyday expenses that comes with this.
I personally know some people who they work downtown, and so what they'll do is actually they drive to a RTA rapid stop, park at their RTA rapid stop, and then take public transportation downtown.
Park and ride.
I mean, there's similar things like that, basically. So it's one of those things that for them it's more convenient and it's more cost effective because they don't have to pay for parking downtown, that kind of thing. But they're going downtown, and so at that point when they're going downtown, I mean, there's a lot more reliability for those portions of the transportation that is going into the much more denser places. Right. Now, I know we're going to have to go to break shortly, so let's pick up on that when we get back. But
real quick before we do go to break, like I've had some experiences and everything. If it was up to me, if I didn't have to charge the battery to this chair, I just drive my chair everywhere, man. That's the truth. But no, you gotta
give it some more horsepower first.
That might be a thought, but no, I mean it's like y'all said, it's pros and cons to it, and you have to learn. You got to learn to adapt and deal with it, because there has been times where I've encountered the whole my lift doesn't work and all this type of stuff. Yes, it does, man. I just seen you let off 2 people before you pick me up, and now you're gonna say it doesn't work. But yeah, you just gotta.
Now, for that statement right there, do you feel that that's a almost personal issue, or just I'm not having a great day at work and I don't want to completely do my job?
I think it's a
Does it matter?
It may be a combination.
Does that
of both.
matter? Honestly, does that matter? If you're there doing your job, you got to do your job.
Right. It may be a combination of both. Who knows?
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Starfish Speaks right here on News Talk.
Everything you need to know about Cleveland sports, news, weather, and more is at newstalkcleveland.com. For instant updates, follow us on Facebook at newstalk1490 and on Twitter at newstalk1490.
Hello, Hello, this is Donna Gilcher of Starfish Speaks. Join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 to discuss hot topics in education. We will talk about resources in the community that address the needs of children with disabilities and enhance the lives of parents and much more. So join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 for Starfish Speaks. If you have a question, we have answers.
Don't miss the Tom Joyner Morning Show.
Sybil, if Quincy Jones really wants to impress us, he can tell us who killed Biggie and whether Tupac is still alive.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, Q, use your power for good. On Guy Tory Monday, Guy's got a gripe, and Shaquille O'Neal calls in. All that and more on the next TJMS.
The Tom Joyner Morning Show, Monday morning from 6 till 9 a.m. on News Talk 1490 WERE and streaming live at blackplanetradio.com.
Of course, I want our kids to eat fresh, healthy foods all the time. But we don't have a supermarket nearby, so it's a challenge.
I wish we were closer to good health care because of our son's asthma. Frankly, it's scary at times.
I'd love for our family to live in a nice house, near a great school, but
none of these resources exist in our neighborhood.
Many variables can shape the outcome of children's lives, like the zip code where they grow up. That's because not all communities have the same opportunities, such as quality schools and housing, fresh food, and good health care. There are many ways to improve communities, so everyone has a fair chance, regardless of zip code. You can make a difference. Join with HUD and local leaders to improve your community. Learn how at HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Fair housing, shared opportunity in every community. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.
Apply for
All right, welcome back. Right here on Starfish Speaks, News Talk 1490 WERE. Once again, I'm your host, Greg Stuart.
Please join the conversation. Number is
216-578-1490. Once again, that's 216-578-1490. And our guest, once again, is Mr. Calvin Turner.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Before the break, you mentioned something about the half and reduced fare requirements. And I know you wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, it's the half fares on how they categorize what should be half fare and what should be reduced fares. But at the same time, isn't it the same thing? Isn't the reduced fare and half fare is going to be in the same thing?
That's what I was thinking, because I'm scratching my head like, wait a minute, isn't that the same thing? But go ahead.
Right, but then I know also with the half fares, it doesn't apply to Parrot Transit, which is, don't get me wrong, a very great door-to-door service, public transportation. Like, there's certain little things where they can add to it, but at the same time, it's that personal touch. It's that personal touch, again, that being in the public eye, you should have that compassion. Compassion.
Exactly. I will say, let's make it clear that the basically the paratransit is what's referred to as a non-fixed route service. So, in other words, the paratransit is not doesn't have a predetermined pick up and drop off and a point A, point B, or specific route that it actually follows on a set schedule. Whereas they referred to as the fixed route services are things like the buses and have their specific bus number goes this route from this place to this place, and doing that kind of giant loop, so to speak. And so from what it seems to get at, though, with regards to that concept of the half fare versus reduced fare, is that the main difference is that the half fares, as mentioned, do not apply to the non-fixed route services. They only apply to actually fixed route services. Whereas what is referred to as the reduced fare is the concept that those are things that would be referring to potentially applicable to the non-fixed route. At least how I would see that as being, at least what I've read from this and understand it to be. But those kind of vary, apparently, appears based on the region and also the system that it actually is implementing it, since apparently some region transit agencies actually identify their half fare and reduced fare policies as one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. And I also like how there are certain times where you can use different identification
Right.
to determine your fare, such as with your Medicaid card,
With your Medicaid card,
your Medicare card, and
your
a lot of the
ADA
Medicare,
pass.
a lot of the Medicare card holders,
Mm-hmm.
all they have to do is show that because typically they're seniors.
Right.
So it applies to that special rate of less cost than someone half their age, I would say.
Right. Now, I don't know if this is like true or not, because I've heard about this, but I've never actually seen it. You can even use your state ID as a form of identification when you board the buses. Like, I've heard about that, but I've never actually seen it. So,
In terms of determining age or what?
I can't say anything, speak on that because
Okay.
I haven't seen that myself.
Right.
I've only seen either discounted card,
exactly.
a paratransit card, or your Medicare card.
Your Medicare card, exactly.
Or these
exactly.
really awesome cards that are referred to as the discount fare card, that are senior disabled cards, which are really nice because they do save you money.
Right. Exactly.
It's nice with that, I will say. But it also, if you have, I've had a few times where haven't had exact change and with it and on a bus or that, and I've been flagged on through saying, hey, it doesn't matter, just keep going, which has been nice, and I appreciate those people who have done that. But I will tell you that's not very much the just common thing to find.
Right.
And that goes back to the driver's discretion.
The driver's discretion.
And like you just spoke of that card right there, which I was going to get back into. They contain a photograph. So it lets you know that it's not just anybody that can use this and say, oh, I have an impediment and I have that card. So it's like, show me the card. I see it's you on that card. Okay, go ahead, proceed.
There's also an effective daylight on expiration date on it that's like really large print.
Right.
And so, I mean,
Exactly.
honestly, in terms of the card, the largest print on the card is the date that it expires.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so when it comes down to it, I mean, there's that. I have seen people who have, gotten by with actually just an expired card because it's not really looked at or checked as thoroughly as it could. I've even heard somebody when going riding the RTA who said they found a card and they used it, and all they had to do was put their thumb over the photo and nobody looked. Which I must say was quite upsetting for me to hear, and I will tell you I did actually report them to the transit police.
Because that goes back to where
it makes
us who have to utilize and do that makes it harder, because I know myself where with getting my identification card, I can start as early as 60 days before my birthday.
Exactly.
And with me starting that, I've had to wait as long as 3 months after my card has expired to get it. So it's like, again, we're going back and forth to, as you just said, Willem, someone who found a card, put their thumb over the picture,
just walk around through.
And just walk through. It's like,
right. And it's a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to the rest of us who
actually had to work to get that in the first place.
Exactly. And for the most part have been dealing with these impediments and physical obstacles all our lives. And now we have to jump through monkey hoops, as Willem likes to say. We got to jump through monkey hoops just to get service and to identify that, hey, I am who I say I am, versus somebody who all they do is just put their finger over the picture and can just go sky-free.
Right. I'm not even going to just say on the physical impediment part, but just the impediment. The
impediments, period.
The impediments itself, it's like you get a slap in the face from that. You do.
And it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Any callers?
Yeah, feel free, man. Give us a call, 216-578-1490. Again, it's 216-578-1490. Man, this stuff is interesting.
Now, going back to the driving portion, though,
right?
I will say that one of the big things I hated about RTA and taking public transportation when having to get from point A to point B, especially for work, was that depending on schedules, I may have to leave and arrive at my destination 45 minutes to an hour before I need to be there, just because otherwise I'd be late. And so it was kind of one of those things that was obnoxious with it. And honestly, it had a lot of difficulties, limitations for it. Another reason why, for me, getting my driver's license gave me a greater degree of freedom and control over my own schedule and my own ability to get where I needed to be. I will also say that there isn't to say that I didn't say use that RTA scheduling thing as an excuse at times when, say, I didn't quite meet my requirements and didn't follow through with what I needed to do. I will not say that I'm perfect and haven't ever tried to use that to my advantage. But at the same time, it is there is something to be said there for basically that greater degree of freedom and control.
Oh man, that goes into my next question. Is driving really for everybody? Is driving for everyone?
I would say that driving is hopefully maybe for everyone. There are some people I know that probably should not drive, but yet have driver's licenses anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there are people who have difficulty getting driver's license that I think would probably be pretty good at it if they weren't for all the stress of actually getting it in the first place.
Right.
But I think it kind of depends really down the person, but pretty much everybody should have the opportunity towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that from a previous conversation we had, you guys were mentioning something about some unique and adaptive kind of controls for cars for people who say otherwise couldn't use the pedals.
Yeah,
Yes.
hand controls.
Yes, it's called hand controls. And answering that question is driving for everyone. It's all about having that option and opportunity to go for it. And for those who have the impediment where you have the loss of limbs with your feet, with your legs, the hand control does come in handy. And for anyone who wants to know more about that, you can also look that up online. Hand control, and also your state government agency rehabilitation can help you out with getting that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like here in Ohio, you can just look up vocational rehabilitation. And
I was about to say, you could talk to your BVR counselor.
Get with someone with the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation and let them know, look, I have this, and this is something that I want for my own independence. And again, it goes back to that word of independence. Some people have it, some people do not. But again, it's nice to have that option and have that opportunity to have it.
Or you can even, for those who are interested in wheelchair vans and you honestly can't drive yourself, but you can still get the van and just have somebody drive for you, just as long as they have a clean driving record or, anything of that nature. But yeah, I read up on that a few days ago, and that was surprising. I didn't know about that.
Or maybe technology has something in store for you, make things easier, and you won't actually need a driver for your car as long as you got the car.
There you go.
Speaking on those two things right there, I'm going to dub back. Greg, one key piece that you missed was insurance. You have a clean driving record, but you gotta have the insurance
too. Yeah,
I hate insurance.
And going with
you
the
gotta
way,
have the insurance.
Yes, and going with the way the world is going, there are looking into getting into those self-driverless cars where the passengers just get in
and they
go.
Just go.
It's a computer base that lets you know right now there's not a human in the car. It's just a self-driving car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we look back to in the late 80s, early 90s TV shows, things of that sort. they talked about how the world was going to go all about computer based, and slowly but surely they're looking to that in the future.
Yeah, well, even got some working prototypes on that already. Google has a driverless car that they use for doing their Google Maps kind of, photos and all that all across California and all that currently. There's, Uber has been testing out driverless cars in a couple states already and all that. Yeah. It's something coming down the line. Now, for those who, worry about, say, the safety and all of that for it, and what about failure of those computer systems, whatever else, don't know that it would be any more, any more to worry about per se than the computer systems failing on any other kind of highly souped up car as it exists nowadays, since the more we've been putting computers and really fancy electronics in the cars, the more that the mechanical aspects of the car have kind of been taken a secondary. So already pretty much about the same. Seems we got another call potentially.
We have a caller. Good afternoon. Welcome to Starfish Speaks.
Got somebody, but apparently it hasn't switched over yet. Let's see. Well, anyways.
I like to talk about the training part, the training aspect of public transportation for the disabled. Again, we go back to...
we got a call. Yeah, we got a caller?
We got a caller. Good afternoon. Welcome to Starfish Speaks.
Hi. I'm just really interested in your topic, and I want to know, how do people afford to have their vehicles adapted? Are there programs or resources that are available for someone who, say, comes down with MS and needs to have a wheelchair just, periodically? How can they afford to get a van that's adapted for them?
Well, again, we go back to where you have, if you're receiving governmental assistance as far as SSI and things, they have what they call the pass, and that's where X amount of dollars of your funds goes into this as far as buying the vehicle, or if you know someone that's gifting you a vehicle, and your state governmental rehabilitation will put the funds up to get that vehicle adapted for you.
Oh, okay. So if someone gives you a vehicle, or you use a pass program or another program to save up the money yourself, then the government will help you to have the vehicle adapted through disability programming.
Yes.
Or rehab programming.
There are multiple organizations that apparently specialize in that, and there are also apparently even some products on the market and everything else that are designed as, some portable and also permanent installation kits for those kind of controls for cars, so that they can be augmented and adapted without having to do any significant changing or, alteration to the vehicle itself.
And yes, and as you just said that, Willem, the pieces that makes it adaptable for you, they're not permanent. They can be removed, and for someone who is able-bodied, was to say drive you around, they can drive it just as if it was a regular vehicle if you are not able to do it at that moment. So again, speak with the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation. Give them a call if you have this already in stone, and they will be able to better assist you with that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome, and thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Oh, man. See?
Actually, I started just even while we're talking about it, started pulling up some information and looking at it, and I'm seeing several companies that specialize in these kind of apparatuses for cars and that, and I'm surprised that they're actually not necessarily as expensive as that I was thinking.
Yes.
Going to the affordability thing, honestly, many of these kits are less than a single month of my car payment. Hell.
Oh, man.
I like that. And Linda, if you're still listening, I'd like to just say, once again, as far as that right there, get in touch with your local state government rehabilitation, and they'll be able to assist you with that. Also, we have Metro.
Google hand controls for cars, and you can actually start seeing a lot of information, including information from organizations that specialize in it.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Starfish Speaks.
Hello, this is Donna Gilcher of Starfish Speaks. Join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 to discuss hot topics in education. We will talk about resources in the community that address the needs of children with disabilities and enhance the lives of parents and much more. So join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 for Starfish Speaks. If you have a question, we have answers.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mom my. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
Today we decided to walk to school. At the corner, we waited to cross the street. The stoplight counted down. 15, 14.
31? 13?
We took a left on Carroll Garden Street.
Garden Street?
Loud music was coming from a car. Danny's a smart kid, but he gets so distracted.
There were so many other sounds. I didn't know what to focus on.
Danny, Earth to Danny. Suddenly he realized he forgot his homework again.
I left my homework on the table.
At the school steps, we hugged goodbye. I really hope he doesn't have another bad day at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free online resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Get personalized recommendations, practical tips, daily access to experts, and more. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back. Starfish Speaks right here on News Talk 1490. We want to take this time to thank Linda for calling in. And Calvin, you had mentioned something before we went to break. You wanted to speak on something?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on just, you can check with your local hospitals, and certain hospitals have programs where they help with that. They help with getting your vehicle adapted. And I know, Willem, you did some research yourself.
I honestly, I didn't have to go that far. I just was doing a quick search and looking for something, and I found that there's a company called Mobility Works that is apparently got Department of Transportation accreditation for this product they have, which is a product for
hand control.
Yeah, hand control modification for a car. Easy installation. It's a portable set kind of thing, and it's only like $212 on Amazon. I mean, I must say,
wow.
Yeah, as I said, it's about less than my car payment per month.
So when we go back to this, as we say,
it's more affordable than my car.
as we all like, we like to know that things are affordable. So
exactly.
Please do not just think that this is all about transportation, but it's about being affordable, because some people, there's somebody out there who looks for all of this and they think it costs an arm and a leg. But again, what we're doing with this platform is we're trying to give you the knowledge and also certain resources to go and look for it and know that it can be affordable for you.
Education. You're never too old to learn.
I learn every day, even if I don't want to.
Exactly. You learn something new every day. So the last question would be like, I don't know, what's next? Where do we go from here?
What's next?
Road trip?
That would be cool, honestly.
Hey, seems like a great idea.
Cool. What's next is just getting more agencies out there that will do training on their whole system, whether it's far as from your application process to the riding the public transportation, as in just giving us more information. And let's not forget the federal laws, the laws that apply to all of this. Transportation for the elderly and disabled persons. You can look that up at www.gpo.gov, and they will have information there that allows you to get more information.
Exactly. I mean, like we always say, you got to use your resources. And I know Willem is an expert on resources and research and stuff.
I'm an excellent player of Minecraft where every resource needs to be utilized properly. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
That's okay, no problem. How would you say, Willem, being someone with a disability, how would you say, dealing with your experiences, being able to drive, how has that impacted you personally?
Personally, it has given me the freedom to control my own transportation, make sure I get places where I need to. Fortunately, it's also enabled me to run as potentially late as I possibly can at any given time and arrive just at the nick of time for whatever I'm supposed to be at. Okay. So that's not necessarily the best situation. However, that all comes down to time management, but at least it falls on me to actually solve it rather than, throwing in the added, caveats of, juggling public transportation along the way. I will say I'm much more comfortable with me being the weak link and having to actually get, reliable, timely transportation figured out just because of me, rather than having to actually have other entities involved in it at the same time. So it's like you're controlling your own destiny. Yes, very much so. I guess. All right. Calvin, what about you? Your thoughts and experiences with transportation? And I know you mentioned something about driving once before.
Yes, driving. There was a point in time where I was going to do all of the driving things, but certain things in life just said, no, put the halt to that. And I just came strong enough in my own mindset to say, I'll utilize the public transportation. I don't have a problem with it. Yes, there's the delays of the waiting and things like that. But again, for me, my personal experience of that is I don't mind doing some of the waiting or utilizing my four wheels of my wheelchair to go and get it done myself and not have to wait on someone, not have to wait on anything. It's all about getting up and doing it yourself, where we just like to know that we can do that. Exactly. We like to know that we can do that. I'd like to speak on just the fact that most of our information came from personal experiences, also from the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, where you can find them on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also look at their web page, www.nadtc.org. Their
wealth of information.
Excuse me?
Wealth of information.
Yes.
Most definitely.
They were established in 2015. They're a federally funded technical assistance center administrated by Easter Seals, which is also a great company. They do a lot of great work around the world. They do a lot of work in communities around the world. And the National Association of Area Agency and based on aging in Washington.
Right.
So again, check them out. Their website again is www.nadtc.org.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna start calling you the human encyclopedia, man. You just got stuff coming out of everywhere.
That doesn't necessarily sound very good. That's an image we really don't want to be putting over the radio.
Only you would think of something like that.
Hey.
Nah, but I mean, like you always have versus information and share, man, and that makes a difference.
It was part of my job, and I took it upon myself to make it a personal duty of mine to get information out there, to research it, because again, I was a consumer support advocate where I looked up information for Ohioans that came in, whether it was for food pantry, clothing, just little things, and you never know, just the littlest thing goes a long way. As they say, a smile and a thank you goes a long way.
Exactly. Or like I was always taught, the littlest things make the biggest difference.
The biggest impact on a person's life.
Exactly.
Whenever you call technical support because your cable's not working or whatever else, it's always nice to actually, start talking to people, have a little bit of small talk, befriend them a bit. You'll be amazed at what kind of benefits you get as a result.
Exactly. It goes a long way.
Anytime you deal with anybody, it's always nice to actually kind of, treat them well.
You treat people the same way you want to be treated. That's what I was always taught. And, I appreciate doing this show because not only do we get a chance to inform and educate our listeners, but we, as the guys that do the shows, we learn stuff as well. And it's like, man, I didn't know. Like earlier, when the whole thing about the hand controls and stuff was mentioned, I thought that would be like super expensive.
So did I.
Yeah, it's like
I was always imagining like they'd have to completely like remodel a car to actually make it possible.
They would just have to take it apart and just.
But no, yeah.
Again, that right there, due to the fact that I've seen most of these vehicles, and a lot of them, they try to do it with vans for people with with wheelchairs. They try to modify the vans, but you can't get a car modified. It's all about your personal preference and what you take to them. So again, if you have your own vehicle and you say, I need this modified, whereas a car, they put a latch on top where from the side door, it comes out, pick your chair up and put it on top of your vehicle.
I've seen that.
They put it on top of your vehicle. So it's all about lift mechanisms along with vans. It's a removal of a seat. Of a seat or a swivel of the seat. Because, again, you come in through the side door, and then you can either, A, pull your own wheelchair up to the steering wheel, or have the captain seat, as we like to call it, where it swivels, and you transfer from your wheelchair to the driver's seat. So, again, it makes you more, as society like to call it, normal, visibly
I don't like normal. Normal is boring.
Visibly normal to the point where you're sitting in your own car
seat. Exactly.
Whether it's all about your own comfortability. It's about being comfortable when you're driving, when you're riding. It's all about comfortable.
Well, we're getting to the end of this, and I want to say thank you again for joining us. This will not be the last of the conversation we have involving topics of ADA, so please join us again.
Right, and once again, I want to thank Calvin for taking the time to come out and, do the show. We appreciate having you. As always, you did a magnificent job, man. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Back anytime.
And thank you all for listening.
Even Wednesdays?
We'll see
Wait,
you
we're
all
not on the air on Wednesdays. Never mind.
Nope. We'll see you all again next week right here on Starfish Speaks.
preceding was a paid program brought to you by Starfish Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management. WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.